Okay, so still on Unit 1, Module 5, we're on fire procedures now. Okay, fire safety measures. Fire safety on premises or site is important for staff, visitors and customers. If a fire occurs in the workplace, it could result in the disruption of normal business activities and can affect profitability. Staff and or customers could be injured or even lose their lives. So good fire safety is everyone's responsibility. Basic fire prevention measures include switching off all non-essential electrical appliances, not overloading electrical points, regularly inspecting and maintaining all electrical equipment, safety storing flammables, regularly emptying ashtrays. No business centres have ashtrays anymore, do they? But you still have your outdoor areas and a smoking shelter, don't you? So that could be for that, to think about that. Storing rubbish away from the building, keeping electrical and gas fires well away from furniture. Under the Regulatory Reform Order of 2005, employers must nominate a competent person to carry out a full fire risk assessment, provide their employees with any relevant information, instruction and training, and security operatives must also cooperate with their employers in all matters relating to fire safety. Okay, so this is your fire triangle. This is something that's important to make a note of. It's important to remember. Fire needs three elements to start and survive. They are heat, fuel, and oxygen. If any of the three elements are greatly reduced or removed, then the fire itself will be reduced or extinguished. So heat, a minimum temperature is needed to start a fire and for it to continue. Fuel, fire needs something to burn like solid fuel, oil or gas. And oxygen, fire needs oxygen to burn as it supports the combustion process. Okay, so here's your classifications of fire. Fires are divided into types of classification. Each class requires a different method of extinguisher. So your Class A fires are ordinary combustibles like paper, wood, textiles, rubber, plastic or fabrics. Your Class B fires are flammable liquids like petrol, oil, paint and solvents. Your Class C fires are flammable gases like butane or propane gases. Your Class D fires, metal fires like magnesium, sodium, and your Class F fires are for like cooking oils and fats. You might wonder where's the Class E. There actually is no Class E, which seems strange. But at the bottom, you've got fires involving electricity. That's not classed as a Class E fire because there is no Class E. So maybe that's why they left it blank. I couldn't say for certain, but there is no Class E. Okay, so your fire extinguishers are used for small fires, have a limited capacity, can be easily carried to a fire, intended for use by anyone, and security operatives need to know their uses, locations, and methods of operation. There's your fire classifications and indicators of what extinguisher can put out those fires. Even though the powder one suggests that they can put out most fires, it's not recommended um, by a lot of fire safety experts. They don't recommend the powder one, okay, because it causes a lot more, well, it can cause damage within your electrical appliances and a lot of mess as well. Okay, your fire extinguishers, so you've got your contents gauge, type of extinguisher should be labelled, the method of operation should tell you, the class of fire it's suitable for should be indicated, and the service maintenance date, usually every year. Okay, only attempt to fight a fire if the alarm has been raised, the emergency services have been contacted, the fire is not spreading and it is confined, that you've got a clear escape route not threatened by fire, and obviously you've selected the correct extinguisher. Do not attempt to fight the fire if it's bigger than a waste paper bin. You need more than one extinguisher. The room is filling with smoke. You do not have a clear escape route, or there's gas cylinders or chemicals involved. Your efforts are not reducing the size of the fire, or you do not have the correct extinguisher. Operating the extinguisher, select the correct extinguisher, check the contents gauge, pull the pin to break the seal, holding the extinguisher upright, squeeze the trigger, test the range and content away from the fire, and extinguish the fire using the correct technique for that type of extinguisher and the nature of the fire. It's important that all security operatives take the correct actions on discovering a fire. You will need to follow your organisation's policies and procedures in your AIs, sound the alarm and inform the emergency services, and follow the acronym FIRE. Make a note of this, please, because this does come up in the assessment papers on the final day for the qualification. So it spells out fire, but you're going to get 4 multiple choice questions that do that. But this is the one that you need to remember. So find, you discover a fire, inform, raise the alarm, restrict, so you're going to restrict access to the area of the fire, and evacuate the building or extinguish. It normally has in brackets after evacuate, it's got in brackets extinguish. So that's going to be your correct answer on your multiple choice test. So you've got a control panel. It's important to ensure full understanding of the extent of the area or of the incident to pass on the correct message to the emergency services with regards to materials or chemicals stored in the affected area. Most commercial businesses or buildings now have their own fire alarm systems. These are designed to detect fires as soon as they start, raise the alarm, and sometimes call the fire brigade automatically. Security operatives need to be aware of how their fire alarm system works and what they need to do on hearing the alarm. Fire blankets can be used to extinguish fires by smothering them. They're often found in kitchens, as they're very often useful to extinguish fires in pans. You still do see fire blankets in kitchens where there is no oil, chip pans or anything like that, which is very strange. But some business premises still seem to buy fire blankets. I'm not sure why. You're mostly going to see fire blankets nowadays in chip shops, cafes, restaurants, places where they do still use fires in pans. Some fire alarm systems are connected to sprinklers, which spray water onto the fire from outlets in the ceiling, holding back the fire until the arrival of the fire service. And your hose reels, long lengths of rubber hose positioned strategically around the site, permanently connected to the mains water supply, and are started by opening the valve before use. Can be quite heavy to unreel when needed, but are very effective when used as they provide a limitless supply of water. Your dry and wet risers. Some buildings have riser systems built in. These systems consist of long water pipes running along the outside of the building and across the ceiling on each floor, allowing water to be dispensed even, via sprinklers to each floor in the event of a fire. And wet riser systems have water in the pipes all the time, whereas dry riser systems need to be activated manually to send the water into the pipes. If you remember Grenfell Tower in London, they didn't have anything like that, did they? And what annoyed me about Grenfell Tower, the MEN Arena terror attack, even 9/11, the Twin Towers, the emergency services on all those occasions told the people to stay inside, we'll be with you shortly. A lot of them died because of that. I'm not blaming the emergency services, but Um, you're always taught, if you can get out, get out. So you shouldn't always, in those circumstances, listen to authority figures. You make your own judgment call. If you know you can get out, then get out. Okay. Okay, flooding systems are designed to be used in unoccupied rooms where there are high value contents or areas where a fire may cause major disruption to the activities of the organisation. Examples might be archives, electrical equipment or switchgear. On detection of the fire, a fire extinguisher medium, most commonly CO2, will be discharged into the room to replace the air and extinguish the fire by smothering. Um, Fire doors and fire exits. So internal fire doors help to prevent or reduce the spread of smoke and flames from one room to another. Should be closed at all times, should not be obstructed. Okay, so when you're doing your rounds, you should make sure no one's leaving boxes or anything near the fire doors. Fire exits are a vital means of escape in the event of a fire. Should be clearly marked. Must be unlocked when anyone is in the building. Should not be obstructed on the inside or outside. So if you see a car or vehicle parked on the outside, normally as security staff, you will put a tannoy call out to the owner of that vehicle to get it moved, because that person should not be obstructing a fire door. Okay, your fire alarm control panels. Normally when you go into a new job, the health and safety manager of your new workplace, they will take you through an induction day, and some of that is going to be learning how to use the fire alarm panel. Okay, so the warning and control units within the fire alarm system. If a fire emergency is detected, the control panel alerts those monitoring it via various lights and audible alarms. Security operatives can work out the type of emergency, exactly where it's occurring, and over what extent of an area. Some systems actually call the fire brigade, sound the fire alarm, unlock doors, cut off electricity altogether, and set off sprinkler systems automatically. Normally you've got like a schematic or a map of each floor of your work premises next to the fire alarm panel. That is something very important to learn because it tells you where all the zones are. So if a fire alarm activation goes off in a certain zone, it comes up on the fire alarm panel. You should know by looking at the map or the schematics of the site exactly where that zone is. And it really is important to learn that. Because if if the fire service turn up, they're going to ask you for a map and to direct them to where it is. You're going to be very embarrassed if you can't direct them to where the zone is. So this is why it's important to know these things. Okay, in an evacuation, security operatives must take control, communicate effectively, help to evacuate the site quickly and safely, encourage people to leave via the safest exit, assist anyone who doesn't know where to go, assist any vulnerable people like elderly, disabled or children, avoid causing unnecessary panic, know where the assembly points are and know what to do once the building is empty. Typical actions would include raise the alarm or shout fire to warn others, operate the nearest manual call point, call the fire service on 999, evacuate the area, restrict access and isolate the fire, report to the assembly point and only attempt to fight the fire if it's safe to do so and you've been trained. Okay, so evacuation procedures need to be practiced. Remember the 5 P's, planning and preparation prevents poor performance. By acting promptly and correctly in times of an emergency, security operatives can help to save time in the evacuation, keep themselves and others safe, assist the emergency services and prevent injuries and save lives. Okay, when it comes to fire wardens or fire marshals, they are members of staff nominated to take responsibility for a particular area with regards to fire safety. Numbers of fire wardens or marshals will vary depending on the size of the site and the number of people involved. So if there's a lot of staff, there's going to be a lot more fire wardens who are trained. Under the Regulatory Reform Order of 2005, they are there to assist the designated person responsible for general fire safety. So that's going to be normally the health and safety manager or the facilities manager of your site. They're going to be the main accountable person who is responsible. Typical duties include assisting with the fire risk assessments, checking all exit doors and escape routes are unlocked and unobstructed, ensuring all fire extinguishers are in place, correctly positioned with the seals in place, checking all safety signs are clearly visible and in the correct place, making sure that all alarm call points are unobstructed and working correctly, checking all fire doors are closed and functioning properly, and ensuring corridors and walkways are kept clear, ensuring assembly points are clearly marked and easily accessible, and reporting any equipment faults. During a fire situation, their duties will include sounding the alarm, calling the fire service. Okay, I don't want to get anybody confused on that bit. If you see a fire, then obviously you're not going to call the fire warden on your site for them to sound the alarm, are you? You're going to smash the break glass and sound the alarm. Okay, so I don't want to get you confused with that bit. Assisting with a fire evacuation, fighting the fire if it's safe to do so, ensuring everyone is out of the building, closing doors and windows, manning the assembly point, taking or assisting with the roll call, assisting the fire coordinator and liaising with the fire service. Okay, so state the 3 elements needed for a fire to start and survive. What did we say that fire triangle was at the beginning? What are those 3 elements? List 4 tasks a fire warden or marshal may be required to carry out. And list 4 classes of fire and their meaning. Okay, when it comes to fire safety, in the old days, fire doors used to have chains and padlocks on in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Nowadays, it's a lot easier. They have a break glass. Some of them just have bars that you can push down, and the doors open. But if there are still any doors out there where a guard yourselves have to chain and padlock them, please don't ever take risks by thinking when you do the unlock of the site, I'll leave that on so I don't have to put it back on tonight. We're trying to get rid of that lazy mindset. If you were to do that and a fire broke out in a shopping centre, for example, or your place wherever you work, people are not going to be able to get out that building because you've left the chains and padlocks on. So please don't ever cut corners and think that way, that you don't have to put it on tonight. If you've got to think of safety risks, because you're going to be found guilty by your own acts and omissions. So please bear that in mind. As I mentioned before, please make a note of the FIRE acronym, as it's likely to come up in your assessment paper.